Right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening from wherever you are watching us from. I know this particular meeting definitely will be recorded, and so people will be joining us from different time zones. Karibu sana, as we say it here in 254 Kenya. Yeah, this is yet another Tech Tuesday. Almost should we call it Tech Tuesday? I'm like, we should come up with a name for it, right?
I think so. I think so. Maybe we should do a poll. but I think
Right.
so.
Yes. So welcome to this particular webinar today, and it's all about AI-powered digital memo management, and it's all about how do we communicate effectively within our organizations, right? This is the Sibasi team. My name is Edwin. I am the lead here with regards to Microsoft Tech, and I'm gladly joined by our team. Of course, you can see on screen there, Mr. Amos. I think you've just done the mic check, but you can do that again. You can say hi to those who are joining us in here.
Hello, everybody. It's a big pleasure to connect today. Excited about today's discussion.
Awesome. Thanks. We're also joined in the background by Abigail and Annette. I don't know if you guys can just unmute and say hi. Yeah, it's also us doing our mic check 1 2 1 2. You know, sometimes technology has that thing. It does that thing for us. So Annette.
Hi, everybody. My name is Annette, and I'm in the marketing department here at Sibasi.
Awesome. Abigail.
Hello, everyone. It's nice to be here. My name is Abigail Angashi, and I'm the solutions lead for Smart Memo.
All right. And I think Abigail has given that away. Yeah, today we're going to be looking at, like we mentioned, AI-powered digital memo management, and we are going to be looking at our proprietary solution here called Smart Memo. Yeah, so I hope you have your coffee ready. It's going to be a very, very insightful journey. And the reason why we do this particular webinar is actually threefold. Number one, we hope that it's going to be engaging for you. We'd want to hear from you in terms of how are you applying tech within your organization, and especially for the things that we're talking about, is it going to be beneficial for you? Number two, we hope to educate. We hope to, bring some learnings your way in terms of how you can better use technology and especially apply that which you're going to be talking today in your current context, and make sure that that helps you to be able to achieve success and have an impact whichever way you mention that. And the last one is basically to empower your organizations, empower the employees within your organizations to be more productive and to be able to help with regards to meeting your goals. And with regards to today's conversation, we just want to say that, organizations do not fail because they lack communication. They fail because communication does not turn into action. And I know we are privy to this. We write memos, we hold meetings and send emails every day, but decisions still get missed. Actions still slip, and accountability remains manual. AI changes this, not by replacing people, but by becoming an intelligent agent that listens to communication, understands intent, and helps organizations act faster and smarter. And that's the shift that we are going to be talking about today. But before we do that, we'd like to do some bit of housekeeping. So number one, we just want to let you know that this particular session is going to be recorded, and therefore you should expect a polished recording delivered into your inbox within 6 business days. And like I mentioned, the other bit of why we do this particular engagement is so that we can be able to have a conversation. So our live Q&A is going to be open throughout the session. We're going to be having polls coming in, and just would want to have an engaging session. It's not just going to be like a podcast where you hear myself and Amos, talking about the latest in tech, but we would want to be a session for it to be a session where we can get to glean off each other's wisdom. You are working on the ground and we are working with the tech. How can we come together and bring our knowledge together for this? So please feel free to drop in your questions, drop in your comments at any time within this particular webinar, and we have our team. Annette will be managing that particular side of things, and myself, Amos, and Abigail will be ready to engage you with regards to the questions and the comments that you have on this. So again, welcome. I hope you have your coffee and your tea ready, because we have a very insightful engagement today prepared for you. And now we're going to be looking at this in terms of our agenda. Number one, we're going to be looking at, what does AI have to do, in 2026. We know that for most of us, and if you've been joining our webinars, we've been starting about, and we've been singing about this AI in 2026. What are we looking at from a tech perspective? And the whole idea, like I mentioned, number one is, to be able to empower you, educate you in terms of what we are seeing in terms of a transition or a trajectory with regards to how organizations are going to be interacting with AI, and how that is going to be helping them to be able to, achieve their organizational mission, right, and their impact. So that is going to be the first thing that we're going to look at. Then we're going to now segue into, memos. What are the problems? What are the traditional, why traditional memos fail in modern organizations? Because we're in the 21st century, and I'm guessing that we need to do things differently. So what are the problems that are existing right now? Then we're going to look at our solution, Smart Memo. How does it then help you to be able to modernize your communication within your organization? How does it then, work with regards to security and compliance? And then we're going to be looking at what's the pricing, and probably what are the next steps for your organization in terms of if you'd want to onboard such a solution. So let's get right into it. Let's start by, with the reality many organizations are living with. The challenge is not that people aren't working hard. In fact, people are working exhaustingly hard. Look at this, 71% say that they lack energy to get day-to-day work done. This is not a productivity issue. It's actually an operational strain issue. Then 67% say that they struggle to innovate or think strategically. That tells us that firefighting has replaced forward planning. And I know this also affects us even as an organization, right? And here's one that should really hit home. 61% say that they spend too much time searching for the right information they need, right? When they need it. So what's happening is simple. Our organizations are producing a lot of digital communication. We're talking about memos, we're talking about emails, we're talking about meeting notes, approvals, action points, but the information is fragmented, and it's turning communication into, execution still depends on people remembering and following up manually. I'm just going to pause there for impact, because I know somebody is really resonating for that. And this is, where AI comes in, right? And like I mentioned, when you look at some research that was done, we're looking at a capacity gap, right? 80% are saying that, hey, we don't have enough time, but 53% of leaders are saying that we need to increase productivity. So how do we do this? Again, like I mentioned, this is where AI comes in, especially agentic AI. The next generation of AI does not just help you to write faster, it helps you to follow through. And I think that is where our points are, and what we'll be discussing today, that we have all these things that are coming up, but nobody is looking at the follow through, right? And AI is going to help organizations convert communication into outcomes. And truly, this is our moment, right? We'd want to help you to drive growth, to manage costs, and to deliver value. These are usually the top 3 things that most organizations are looking at. And here is where we come in as CPAC. We usually call ourselves an innovative and AI native, technology company, and we are really focused on delivering practical, high impact technology for today's digital era. We are really driven by a passion for excellence and quality. We want to provide solutions at the speed of modern organizations require, and everything that we do is really geared towards empowering you to achieve success and have an impact, whichever way you define it. And basically, our mission is embedded in our name, which is to deliver services and solutions that are deeply integrated within your organization, enabling you to achieve operational excellence, compliance, and also sustainable sustainable growth. And this is going to, couple in with what we are seeing in terms of trends with regards to AI. I think I need to mention here that we are indeed a Microsoft partner, a solutions partner, Microsoft Go partner, which we transitioned into Microsoft Solutions partner. And that means that we are top tier with regards to being able to offer solutions for you. And the solutions that we offer are in three particular categories. We have what we call our intelligent business platform. So these are, off-the-shelf solutions that we have built for organizations that help them handle things around their communication. We're talking about board management. We're looking about smart memo for internal communication. We're looking about CRM, ERPs and EDMS in terms of how do you collaborate internally and also with your external stakeholders. And you're also looking at, for those who are within probably the nonprofit space, how do you handle things around monitoring and evaluation? That would be, dealing with your donors, as well as, the reporting requirements that they have from a regulatory perspective. So that is what we're calling our intelligent business platforms. And today we're going to be centering that conversation around smart memo. But on the other side, we also have what we call Microsoft Digital Transformation. And this is basically for those clients that have invested within the Microsoft infrastructure, and we help you to build things around your enterprise systems, things around productivity. You're used to your Word, your Office, your Office platform, things around how do you collaborate efficiently with Teams and SharePoint and all that. So we help you to be able to harness the full power of your Microsoft, infrastructure to be able to help you to deliver the impact that you'd have. But also things around business process automation. How do we get approvals done faster, better, and so that we can be able to achieve the outcomes that we need to achieve, with digital era speed, right? And then things around, robotic and data analytics systems. We have a lot of data, like we said, we're producing a lot of data, but how do we crunch that particular data for us to be able to make information? And this is also part of what we do from a Microsoft digital transformation perspective. And the last bit is around advisory, consulting, and support. So would help you to focus on your core business by us taking care of the IT infrastructure that you have, right? We look at training and making sure that you can get your return on investment with regards to, the licenses that you probably purchased or the systems that you have, just making sure that they are serving you, to the T, right? We're looking at things around IT strategy. Do you have, things around security and compliance? Can we help you to be able to do your assessments? We're living in an age where everything is in the cloud. How do you now transition, from on-premise to cloud? So these are some of the solutions that we offer in this particular day and age. And if you're interested, I think our details are going to be here at the end of this particular presentation, so that if you'd want to engage us on any of these points, then we could be able to have a conversation. But let's get back to the core business of the day. And like I mentioned, in 2026, what we are seeing is two things. We are seeing the rise of, Copilot, and Copilot is basically an assistant walking by you, and an agent is an autonomous, IT infrastructure that is able to run your processes end to end with just, it's just going to consult you in the loop, but it's able to run things from end to end. And that is what we are seeing happening in 2026. And so the question would be, is your organization ready to take up this particular, new shift with regards to how people are using technology and especially with regards to artificial intelligence, AI. Now, just to give us a brief in terms of how things have been, so that you know how we have landed here. So back in the day, before 2023, the human worker was doing everything. They are the ones who are thinking, they're the ones who are, drafting. They were basically doing everything, right? And then that changed between 2023 and 2025, right? And that was the introduction of Copilot. Now you had an assistant who was coming by you and was helping you to write your emails, summarize your meetings, analyze your data, generate reports, and assist with coding. And this was a really, really massive shift. But now in 2026, what we are seeing is now we are combining copilots and agents. We're trying to automate some of these, what we call, repetitive tasks, such that we can now be able, the humans can now be able to, be in charge of outcomes and not necessarily the tasks that we're doing from a day-to-day perspective. And there's a quote here that we usually like to put in. It's by Joel Ramjon, and it says, Copilot is a force multiplier. AI does a lot of the heavy lifting so that people who help do not fall between the cracks. And we've been talking about, the capacity gap that is there. We have so much work to do. And I think in Kenya we say, mambo ni mingi, masaa ni machache. That is usually, our reality on the ground. And so how do we bridge this? And that is why we're having this particular conversation about AI. And then we want to see how we're going to couple this up with our major discussion on how do we leverage AI for our communications internally. But then there's another reality here. AI is only as good as the data that it's grounded on. 83% of senior business leaders said that their organizations AI adoption will be faster if they had stronger data infrastructure in place. And 69% are saying that they have implemented some form of data modernization, just a way to be able to get all your data in one place, and so that you can be able to crunch it better, and just to be able to showcase that this is what we are talking about. So this is where we are moving from. We know that sometimes our organizations are operating in different departments, what we're calling silos. Everybody's doing their own thing, but there's no visibility. There's disconnection in terms of how we communicate internally, and therefore there is wasted capacity, even in terms of time and in terms of resources, because probably we are duplicating efforts. The other bit is that sometimes the data is really complex. It's redundant, it's inconsistent. You're having different departments having the same data, but it's not updated. In terms of having one single source of truth. And then the other one is from a security standpoint, most of the data is vulnerable. It's probably stored in sources where people could be able to have access to it. So what does it mean to have unified data? It means that we're now integrating, we are breaking down the silos, and we want to bring all these things together so that, number one, it's available and such that it's almost near real time. Number two, we want to clean it. We want to remove all the redundancies and inconsistencies, so that, for example, if you're having a list of all your clients, or a list of all your donors, or a list of all your beneficiaries, then it's one single list that is up to date and everybody has access to that. And then the third thing is, in terms of governance, you need to make sure that only the people that need access to that particular data would actually have access to it, because we've had those particular challenges where probably you're sharing the data with some of the chat engines. For example, you're putting your financial data on ChatGPT and you don't know what that is being used for. It's probably being used to train the model better, and that information might resurface somewhere else, and then there is a leak, and that might affect your organization. So we're trying to make sure that all these things are catered for. Your data is unified, your data is clean, and your data is governed, well governed. And that is now what would help us to become what we call a frontier organization. And when we're talking about a frontier organizations, there are three things that we have seen, right? Number one is that these are organizations that want to deliver more effectively. And how do we do this? We want to maximize the resources that we have, human resource as well as the technological resource that we have invested in as a company. Number two, we're looking at how do we handle stakeholders, right? You have internal stakeholders and external stakeholders. How do we make sure that this interaction is efficient in such a way that we can be able to maximize the impact, all right, and achieve the goals that we've set? And then number three, we want to do all this within the blanket of security. We want to make sure that our communication and our conversations and our operations are secure, such that we are able to deliver the impact that we've talked about. So that is basically what we are seeing from a 2026 perspective, that any organization that is looking to be a frontier organization, number one, is going to have to leverage AI. And number two, they're going to have to go, use things around Copilot, use things around agents. And that gets us to the most interesting part and the reason why I joined this particular webinar today. It's about how do we communicate effectively and internally within our organizations. And that is what we're bringing up here today, called Smart Memo. And to help us deep dive into this, what are the problems? What are some of the features? What are we looking at from a smart memo perspective in terms of how to communicate efficiently and effectively in this digital era? Is going to be Amos Oshanga, who is our CEO here, and he's going to be taking us through this. He's going to be unpacking, the solution, and he's also going to show us a demo in terms of how the solution works, and would really love for this to be engaging. And so even Amos, as you prepare, I would like to run a poll at this particular point in time. And then we ask this particular question, what usually happens after key decisions are made in meetings? I think it will be interesting to see what the results are going to be for this particular query. So let me just run that particular poll, even as Amos takes over in a minute.
Fantastic, Edwin. Yeah, I'm also very curious to see how that looks like.
Right.
Yeah, let's see what kind of feedback we're going to see out of this.
Yes,
and just let me know also, Edwin, if you can see the screen.
Yes, your screen is on.
Fantastic.
I'm trying to run my polls here, right? So let me launch that.
Yeah,
so
there we go. Yeah. Let's see.
And please be as honest as possible.
Yeah, do the decisions disappear? How does that go?
Right.
And thanks so much, Edwin, for that introduction into what we are seeing in 2026 around agents, around AI and its use case. I think in the last since 2020, when we started seeing what the new things that were coming with AI, we started engaging with the LLMs, language models, and you could chat and you could ask questions and it answers you. We've seen how things have evolved in the last couple of years, and I think, Edwin, you've done a good job unpacking how has it been up to where we are and what do we see in this particular year in 2026. And with this, I think communication is one of the key aspects within organizations that is quite key. Most of us either we use email or chat, or we've had scenarios where you need somebody to within another team. You're asking the risk team to come and evaluate, your a certain partner that you want to onboard, or you need to connect with the internal auditors to just communicate and give updates about what is happening, and communication across different teams, especially for organizations where you have teams that sometimes even span different geographical locations. Then memos is one of the core aspects of how most organizations operate. And what we've seen over time is memos being, just either handwritten or you type and it has to be printed and then a physical stamp and signing. And things have evolved. And I think with this new age of AI, we are starting to see use cases where organizations are actually onboarding. And I think where we started off this conversation is we have a board management system. And as part of that, there was a request, how about, board, yes, it's dealing with the board, but what about internal communication across the various teams? And this started off that entire conversation a couple of years ago. And right now we have what we would call the Smart Memo. Enterprise memo management that is AI powered. So looking at the feedback that we've gotten, most actions rely on memory and manual follow-up. Yes, some actions are followed up and some are missed. That is, you're not alone. It's this is actually what we've seen over time, and it's excellent. I think, Edwin, we have a very genuine team on the call today. So, how we've seen in terms of the traditional memo management and what you're talking about in terms of saying it's a system, it may not necessarily be an IT solution. It might also be just how do you manage your memos. So there's the aspect of, in most cases, when you're submitting memos and it's supposed to be a company-wide memo, or if you're in an institution, a school, a university, and you need to share this information across the entire institution, then you need to make sure that there's internal agreement within the teams. If it involves a particular team, let's say it involves finance, then you'd want to get feedback from the finance team and make sure that this then gets, by the time you are sharing it out, it is within time. And sometimes, there's notifications that need to go out like really quickly, but the approvers may not be around, may not be in the office. Then at this, how does it go? Most likely you're sending this over WhatsApp or, Teams or other channels. And by the time you're getting the feedback, there's no traceability about there's no audit log that can show this is how the approval actually went. Then the other aspect is, you've shared the memo, it is company-wide or it is to a specific team, and there is no, documented, like the actual document it gets to be missing. Or you start accumulating, so many sets of papers, you're trying to find what did we say last, what did we agree about what we need to do. And that's where, having a digital system that can assist with the memos and memo management becomes quite critical. And that's how we introduced the solution called Smart Memo. So Smart Memo, if you go, and probably Edwin, you can share the link so that all of us can get to see. But basically, Smart Memo is available. It's available on cloud. We can integrate with your internal tools. If you're especially on the Microsoft ecosystem, that is our sweet spot. We are very good in that particular space. We are definitely able to actually integrate, and it can help you across working with all your various teams, or even just for company-wide or organizational-wide communication. And probably so that we don't take, we've talked about a lot from the slides. Let me just switch over and get to show you how that more or less looks like. So this is a Smart Memo. I don't know whether, Edwin, you managed to share the link to Smart Memo. You can go directly and just get to see it. But basically, when you come in, and we've worked with many organizations implementing similar systems, but basically you can go and find all the information about what we are showcasing and what you're talking about today directly online. The good bit about this solution is that you are able to actually use if you use Google for your authentication, then you can onboard all your team members using that. If you're on the Microsoft ecosystem, then most likely you'll be using the Microsoft, continue with Microsoft, you log in with Microsoft. For those organizations that don't use any of this, then you can of course onboard and have logging in with your email address and password. And once you come into the solution, then the first bit about it is the landing section. It's quick clicks to get to the information that you need. First of all, just giving you all the memos that have been shared, that are available, anything that has been published, so you get to see total memos that are open that you may or may not have read. Then if there is anything and you're involved in the approval processes, if there is anything that is pending for you, then you get to see the pending memos. Any that has been approved, whether it is by you, and depending on how you've set up your organization, you may have, it's not just you who's an approver, it might be the entire team, senior management, for example, or it might be co-finance managers and so forth. And then as you are reading the memos, then you get actually to see from your perspective how well you're engaging and getting to see the memos. You can get quick help from here. Alternatively, you can also, for those of us who prefer dark mode and so forth, this is also an option. I think in most modern systems, that is always an availability. When you're looking at the memos, you can always go in and just select and get to read the particular memo, see any information. And then for me, since I'm an approver, then I'll get to see approval workflows. And depending on how you set up your organization, I'll quickly show you how this setup actually looks like. You can also be able to link memos. I think that becomes very critical, where you're sharing information around that this is a continuation of something we had shared before. Then you can actually do a linkage of this memo to other memos. And another key aspect is, of course, if your organization requires that you need to have physical copies of certain memos for documentation, then you can always do the printout. And what it does is that it gives you a formal printout. If you require that it also has your e-signatures, then that can also be included. And then once you have that, then you're able to print this out, store this, and have it available in your as a physical copy. Another key aspect is for some of the organizations, you may require that we integrate this to other services. So if you're, for example, using SharePoint, and you'd want when memos that once we have memos approved, you'd want that we push the final copies into your document management, then that is a possibility where we can look into how how your document management is set up, and that this, we can automate that entire process of how this gets set up. Other key aspects is, of course, you can manage your profile. That's standard functionality. And if you are part of more than one organization, like in this case, I've logged in in the demo environment, you can, of course, switch and get to see. And one of the things that we are trying to do is also make sure, because some of I've seen a number of names that actually use our board management. We want to give you the same kind of experience, and such that at the end of the day, you are feeling, it's not any different from what information that you have. Now, going back to the landing screen, any activity that I'm doing, when I'm reading the memos, then I can see some quick updates about that. And then maybe before we go into the actual memo creation process, I'll get to show you that shortly. I'd want to show you, how easy and how quick you can be able to deploy these solutions. So let's say we are a new organization and we want to set up. First thing is go create your account, the person who's an administrator within your tenant. And then you go through this configuration section. As an organization admin, you can be able to come and change. Of course, most of us would want not just to have the Smart Memo logo. We want to have an organizational logo. So basically what you do is on this particular view, you come in and upload your logo, give details about what your organization is about. Before you invite the rest of the members, go in and set up what are your permission levels. Do you have different levels of how there are those that will be only creating, there are those who only view, and there are those who need administrator access and so forth. Then the next bit that is very critical is setting up what are the types of memos that you normally share out. Here I only have general memos, and in this case, I can just go in and say we have finance-related memos. We have, if it is an educational institution, you can have student memos and so forth. So by virtue of setting this up, and also setting up who's the audience for this particular memo type, then what we do is that we are able now to specify who ideally should receive the memo. Basically, the system, once you set it up, it allows the redirection of the information and making sure that memos that are secured for, let's say, your project's team will only be seen by the project team. And that's where this aspect of setting up the memo types. And the good thing is that you don't have to have all your memo types to start with. You can start off like me and just say, right now, we are kicking off with the general memos that ideally would be shared to, it's memos that we are sharing to the entire organization. If you have also specific things, you remember I mentioned that printout that I was talking about. Sorry, let me just look for the coffee. If within your organization, you'd want that the printout to always come out with the approval workflow, any comments that were tagged, any attachments, and all that information into one particular printout view, then this is where you get to do that setup. How you want it even to be seen, all of that is just set up within this particular view. Then the other key aspect is to say, okay, I've created my memo type, which I called general, and I need to make sure that this particular memo gets to go through a certain set of approval processes. So this is where you get to set up. And in this case, like for the one, I'll get to show you when we are doing a live walkthrough of publishing, you just get to say that, for example, all memos have to go through and be approved, because these are going to be, for general, it's company-wide. The director in charge has to see these memos before they are published, or they have to be approved. And you have many kinds of configurations that you can do. We have organizations that say, if a staff member within finance creates a memo, it has to be approved by the director in charge of finance, And besides that, if it is supposed to go company-wide, it also has to be approved by the Director General or by the CEO. That's one configuration. You can also have other workflows set up where you just say that only when it is within finance, memos within finance have to just be approved by the finance director, and that then, and in this case, because you have even different approval, like we have different managers, then you just set it up and say that the manager in charge of a particular person should be the one who gets to review and approve a particular memo. Whatever the case you have in your organization, whatever the type of memos that you normally collaborate on, then you can choose that as a workflow. And it's very easy to configure. You just go and say, I'm going to create a new workflow. I say what is it related to, give the various details. And then once I say that, I can even save it as a template because I'd want to use it later. And then once you have this set up, then it activates the workflow. And the good thing with this is that you can even change the workflows with memos that have been published, so that you're not stuck in terms of the business process was like this. Today, we've just approved that we are going to change that business process. You can come in and actually make that modification quite easily. And the last bit around your setup is coming in and saying, okay, within our organization, we have different teams. So groups allows you to set up whether it is your committees, whether it is your departments, or even based on various roles and functions. So you can set them all up there. And basically what this assists you with is to be able to say that there are memos that are for a particular team, then they sit within that particular team. And I'll get to show you how that goes shortly. The last bit, once you have set up all that, is to go and now invite who your team members are. And it's as straightforward as just saying invite, give the details. If you are using already Active Directory, then we do a configuration where we connect with your Active Directory. That is for the teams that are already using Microsoft 365, so that now anybody within your organization does not necessarily go through this process of being invited. If you also have like the list of all your members, you can also do a bulk invite where you import through an Excel sheet that you have prepared. That's as straightforward as that. I don't know whether there's any immediate question, and probably Edwin, you can assist in checking if there's any comment or any question that might have come in. As probably that is, Edwin, if you could just confirm if there's any request. I want to now go through the process of logging in. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, at the moment then, there are no requests. I think we're doing well. I think everybody's logged in.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Right. So I'm going to log in as a different user because I want to show you how a typical workflow more or less looks like. So I'll log in as this guy called Demo 4. And in this case, I go in and say that I'm actually going to access the Sibasi demo, the environment. And in this particular case, because Demo 4 had submitted a request for approval, can see that my request is not yet approved. That's a quick view. This particular memo has not yet been published, meaning it is not available to everybody across the organization. So it's as straightforward as going to create a memo. So I go in and say that my memo is, you remember the general memos that we had configured across the organization. Our Demo 4 has access to this. Let me see if I have something that I can share. We assume our Demo 4 is actually within the operations team. Says that, there's an operations update in terms of and compliance guidelines that we want to roll out to the entire organization, and says that this is actually going to be company-wide. There's something interesting that is coming in also with this memo that we are releasing in terms of using AI to actually help you write and type in the particular memos when you're drafting or when you are, loading in, information about your memos. But basically, you can be able to do this. Of course, you can do your bold and so forth, the standard things that you're able to do. You're also able to actually upload files, add files that, let's say this particular memo also includes certain regulations. So we have the main memo, what we are telling the rest of the organization, but also there might be certain documents that need to be shared as part of the same memo that we want the rest of the team to actually look at this. Now, since demo 4 is also not an approver, this is somebody in the operations and has been tasked to actually write a memo that will be shared to the entire organization, then what demo 4 does is actually submits this to actually go for approval. I didn't go into the items on the other side just to show you other key aspects to do with the, when you're creating a particular memo, it gives you tips about how you can use the system, just as quick information. Now, that's our demo 4. Demo 4 has submitted. This memo is not available to everybody across the organization. Let's now switch over to demo 4's our demo 4 approver is, let me see which account I'd use for that. Approver would be, I think I'd use demo 2. And it's as straightforward as coming in as demo 2. And then I'll get to see that actually when I go to, you see the same view because this is an admin, gets to see that, there's actually the 2 memos that have been submitted, the one that we've just sent, the operations update, there was something else that had been shared around overall performance report. And for the approver, it's as straightforward as just opening the particular memo. You get to see the feedback about any information about that memo. And then I can just quickly say that I want to approve. And depending on how you configure the system, if you say that all approvals, rejections need to have a comment, then it will require that you provide a comment for this. And I say, this is okay, approved. Once this is done, so one of the key things about the approval processes is that, if you actually deploy with a mobile app, then these notifications about requests for approval actually come to you on your mobile device and you're able to actually go through the process of doing the approval. And that creates the interesting bit about, and as I switch back to our guy demo, our initial guy who was doing the approval. I think the one that I've approved is this one. Then you'll see that it has been published. And now once it's published, everybody across the organization will get to read and see the details about that memo. You can get to see when during the approval process, if you'd want us to configure like the e-signing, that's also possible, such that when it comes to printing out the actual memo, it goes out with your e-signature. And this gets configured once. If you'd want to use Adobe Sign, if you'd want to use DocuSign, whatever e-signing tool that you'd want, it comes with what it has out of box, but you're also able to configure to use any of the other e-signing tools that are available. And that's it's as straightforward as that. It's easy. If you are an organizational admin, then you'd go in and just to show you that view. Organization admin, you come in, set up your organization, set up, permission levels, set up your memo types. You can start with 1, set up your approval workflows, and then you go and invite different members into your organization. Once you invite your team, they can immediately start actually publishing the memos. Publishing of the memos is as straightforward as just going in and saying new memo. They'll be able to select the memo, and it follows whatever business process of approval that you set up. If you say that it is for general memos, and if they are departmental, then you get to even say which department actually this relates to. If you say that it is supposed to be company-wide, it follows whatever business process of approval for that within the organization. Once you provide your title, you can be able to use AI Assist in terms of drafting, and the rest of the process is as easy as 1, 2, 3. I don't know whether I've made it as simple as it is. So going back to this, Smart Memo gives you digital memo management. Whether you're creating memos, whether you're creating circulars, whether you're creating information that you need to be published, the solution actually comes in very straightforward, very easy to use, and you're able to actually digitize all your memos. If you want that final copies of all the memos to be set up and be published in a certain location, that's a configuration that we can be able to do. Second bit is that you have the smart approval workflows where, depending on whatever configuration you have within your organization, we can be able to set that up. And one interesting thing about this is also being able to track SLAs using the audit log, where you can actually say, where do normally memos take whatever amount of time for approval. So you'll be able to get that out of the system. We can be able to set up e-signatures as part of the core system. It comes inbuilt with e-signing. But if you don't, if your organization specifically requires you to use DocuSign, then we are able to use that. If your organization requires to use Adobe Sign, then you are also able to do that. AI, I think I went through quite quickly. If I go in and just look at this, I don't know whether you noticed there was this summarize that was coming in that can summarize the memo plus all the attachments and get you all the information about that particular memo. Or you can even go in and just do Ask AI. So basically it reads the details of the memo and you're able to actually, through the memo, get summaries about the information as well as the drafting of the memos. And the intelligent assistant